A woman was on the bus with her 3-year-old daughter. And at one of the stops, the little girl saw a man eating out of a garbage can and was very distressed. She kept asking her mother, "Mommy, why? Why is he eating out of the trash can?" Continuing this, why? Why doesn't someone just give him some food? And she bombarded her mother with a prelude of whys this thing had happened, why this situation existed. Now, there was a man on the bus also, sitting right across from them. He was in a wheelchair. And he said to the woman, "Miss, you have a very lovely and caring little girl there. And not only is she lovely, but she is very wise and very beautiful. She looks just like you." The mother turned and thanked the man, and then for the first time she noticed that the man was blind. And as they got off the bus, the man said, "Goodbye, ladies. Enjoy this beautiful day." See, this man may have been physically blind, but in other ways, he was very perceptive. Jesus' journey to Jerusalem in Mark's gospel is situated between two stories in which Jesus restores sight to the blind. The first incident occurs in Bethsaida, where the blind man is brought to Jesus, who effects gradual healing and then sends him home. In today's gospel, the setting is Jericho, the last stop before Jesus ascends to Jerusalem, the place of his passion. And unlike the blind man in Bethsaida, Bartimaeus initiates this encounter, while the crowd tries to silence him. Jesus doesn't make assumptions about what the blind man needs or wants. He does not immediately move to heal his blindness, but instead he asks him, "What do you want me to do for you?" He yields to Bartimaeus' inner sovereignty, his ability to ask for what he needs, rather than anticipating what he might need. See, the blind man wants to see. And Jesus' response is that your faith has made you well. The power of healing was already within him and was not reliant on an external authority. See, I think Jesus is preparing them that he is not going to be with them very much longer. And he wants them to understand that it's our faith in him that allows his healings to happen. But we have to trust him. And Bartimaeus' persistent call to Jesus, "Son of David, have pity on me," is much like Jeremiah's message of hope and rejoicing. Jeremiah, who a lot of times is the weeping prophet, is now being hopeful to the people in exile as he shares that God's fatherly care for his children, Israel. How God will deliver his people, the remnant of Israel, gather them from the ends of the world to guide them, to console them. Even the blind and the lame, mothers with children, all who are often left onto the fringe of the community. This is the promise of God that he makes to us also. And it's through Jesus, even though we can't see him physically, that God begins to fulfill this promise. And so Jesus asks us, "What do you want me to do for you?" And it kind of begs the question, as I reflected on this, can we even hear his calling? See, this world we live in is constantly rebuking us. It's attempting to silence us and our pleadings with all forms of entertainment, busyness, and so many other distractions. And these distractions often silence us. They blind us to what our true needs are, to what the needs of those around us, those on the roadsides, the fringe, begging to be heard. See, we convince ourselves into believing that blindness is something that happens to other people, to the point that we fail to understand that the blind beggar on the side of the road is us. Or at least in the parts of our own being that cry out for healing and reconciliation, for God's fatherly presence. Think of the moments and how many times we've asked ourselves, how didn't I see that was happening? I didn't see that one coming. Or how could I have been so blind? There are people among us today walking around with 20/20 vision who in many ways are blind and less perceptive than the man on the bus. But here's the good news. These scriptures are inviting us to embrace our place, our places of limitation, our places of weakness, our places of vulnerability. They're inviting us to become more aware of our own inner being, to welcome the voices of the needy from the fringes of life, and of our own inner harsh critic, to silence the deep cry for healing and reconciliation. The power of feeling is already within us, and all we need to do is ask. It is by God's persistent love for us that we find healing and reconciliation. His word made flesh. Jesus knows our human condition. We can be confidently know that he is still calling us and wanting us to ask, what can you do? What can I do for you? And he's asking us to be honest. Let your faith impel you to find strength in weakness, courage in opposition, and a voice when people seek to silence you. And be persistent, just like Bartimaeus. He did not let anybody stop him. He knew what he was seeking, and he knew what he desired most to see. And Jesus empowers all parts of us to ask for what we need, and not to rely on victimization, nor to be silenced. Jesus didn't make any assumptions about what the blind man needed, nor will he assume what our needs are. As we prepare to enter this great mystery of sacrificial love, Jesus asks, what's your deepest desire? What is the grace that you want to gather from his real presence in the body and blood that we will receive into our own bodies, knowing that he is alive within us and ready to answer all of your desires? He will yield to our inner sovereignty and acknowledge the power that already exists within each and every one of us. Do you want to see? Do you really want to see? Because to see the human suffering and the needs of our families, the needs of our community, the needs of the church and the world, we're one big happy family, that we have one Lord, one Savior, one God above all who cares about us so deeply that he would give his only Son to give his life for our salvation. Let us, in obedience and faith, come to Jesus, ask for what you truly need, and then, like Bartimaeus, follow him on the way.